Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast is now called Birth Agni Podcast.
Welcome to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast, Season 3.
And if we don't start connecting back with these authentic things, it's going to be so scarce, right? You already see what's going on in the world. It's like you have to choose sides. I mean, people forget the amount of time it's taught you've grown a baby. This is how long it's going to take to get your body back. There is this notion that we have to get our bodies back to, Kim Kardashian style in 2 months. And it's like, unless you have a team of $500,000 people around you, you have to be very smart with your postpartum healing and know that you're not like them, and nor should you have to be.
My name is Divya, and we are back with part 2 of the Doula Stories episode with Nidhi Seth, a doula, a yoga instructor, a belly binding expert, a postpartum Ayurvedic doula from Ontario. Before we continue our conversation, I wanted to break this to you that I have been featured on Spotify India, sharing the stage with various other accomplished women in audio. Feels great, right? The link is in the show notes. If you are a regular listener, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and like this episode if you are listening to me right now on other platforms. And here we continue our conversation. What is sad is that people are buying into that notion of cesarean is safe, cesarean is okay. Normal birth, something can happen, breech cannot be birthed, all of that. And since cesarean is on the rise, the amount of expertise that was there in traditional births into delivering, babies who are thought to be bigger than their mother's pelvis, all of the things that are actually a reason to just casually go and not even give a chance for women to experience anything related to birth, not even labor. Was labor painful? They don't know because they did not go through it. And that is the kind of community that we have become. And the kind of work that you're doing, it's really, really powerful. And thank you for letting us know that side of the emotional self that drives us walking, hearing, listening. Why did I have goosebumps? Because what did you say really hit me somewhere down the line. And sometimes we think we are on autopilot and we don't really realize the power of that.
No, thank you so much for having me. I mean, that's why we're able to talk about these things, because it is so important, because, as long as we have uteruses, this is part of our life, right? Like the whole essence of our being is to create life and to bring life in. I'm not saying everyone has to deliver, but we all carry that foundational, the DNA codes to do that. And I feel like there is that part that's being lost. There's a wisdom that's being lost. It's being literally washed down. And if we don't start connecting back with these authentic things, it's going to be so scarce, right? You already see what's going on in the world. It's like you have to choose sides, and this is what's happening in birth is no different. And how these children are coming in is very important, because these baby spirits that are coming straight from source are like, what have I just come into? They need these high vibrational people, not just lights on them and touching and fingers in and all this stuff. It's so much trauma that people don't realize the newborn can experience more than anybody, because all they can do is feel. Forget about the mother. The mother already is experiencing her experience, but these babies experience more than you can ever imagine. So we do this. I mean, when you get into this work, you do it not only for the mothers, you're doing it for these babies who literally have no say. They don't get a choice. They just get created and they come right in. They're like, okay, this is my journey. So we do it to help these spirits have a much easier transition into their new life, or their reincarnated new life, I would say.
Yeah. So Nidhi, you have all these, other services that you offer. You are an Ayurvedic postpartum doula and a yoga trainer and a Bengkung, if I'm saying that right, belly binding expert and all of that. How did you start embracing all these different form of, it all ties to that one value that you're trying to bring? How did you start embracing all these different methods of doing that?
To be honest, I think I just did whatever I liked. I figured other people were going to like. So yoga, of course, I mean, yoga has been around for thousands of years, right? Here is like people do yoga more than they breathe, or do anything else. They love, people here in the West, they love yoga. Like every single person I know does yoga. So for that, yoga just became part of my daily life at some point when I came back to Toronto. And there was so much of a need for women to feel like they're doing stretching or exercising. So that kind of tied in very nicely with, hey, women need to do prenatal or postnatal yoga. They need to heal their bodies post-birth. If I'm doing yoga, you probably should be doing yoga. So it was very selfish because I thought about myself first, to be very honest with you. The belly binding, it just happened to come across. I saw someone who was doing it and I said, wow, what an amazing way to get women's bodies back. Because what do you do for 6 weeks when you're just laying there? You don't feel you like yourself. You don't feel like tight or held, or you don't feel strong because you've become this home and then a feeding tube right after, right? So it's like you almost lose yourself. You're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. So the belly binding is really an aspect of self-care. And that tied in really beautifully because apparently we've been doing belly binding for so many years. They were doing it in India, they were doing it in China and Indonesia, South America, Africa, and just this technique that I did was specifically Indonesia. And that tied in very nicely with me doing this Ayurvedic postpartum course because that's one of the foundations is the belly binding. So like I said, spirit has a funny way of always revealing things to me. And it's every single day, I'm just like shocked how my life it was very hard the first, I would say, 25 years. It was very much a lot of things have happened to me, and now I've made peace with those things. So it feels like now I really am in my purpose where I can start to see the future. I can see, okay, what is going to be next? What do people need? And then the herbalism, it's just something that I was like, herbs, like this is it. This is the future. This is already the past, but this is bringing the authentic side of how to heal and not using just pharma, but using earth medicine. So for me, it has always been about how I feel, and tapping into that is like, how do I feel about this? And I get excited. I know it's the right thing to do. So I'm learning how to think with my heart more than anything else. My head is always there to give me two perspectives, but my heart is what I'm trying to lead with in this life.
That's so wonderful. And Nidhi, I'll ask you a very technical question here on postpartum. Is we are bombarded with information on how to get back to your body, pre-pregnancy body, and all of that. So we do attach, belly binding and all of that to the fact that it's going to help us get into shape. Is that it? Or is there more?
There's definitely more to it. I mean, if that is just one aspect of it, it's not going to take you to pre-pregnancy. I mean, people forget the amount of time it's taught you've grown a baby. This is how long it's going to take to get your body back. There is this notion that we have to get our bodies back to, Kim Kardashian style in 2 months. And it's like, unless you have a team of $500,000 people around you, you have to be very smart with your postpartum healing and know that you're not like them, and nor should you have to be. So it is about honoring your journey, honoring the body for what she has been through, and the uterus for what she has been through, these beautiful organs where they literally are doing work without you even telling them to do anything. And it's belly binding itself has so many different benefits. One of them is it does help to close the bones and help shift the bones in place. It helps with water retention, circulation, bringing the belly pouch in. If there's any abdominal separation or rectus diastasis, it helps to close that. It helps you even when you look at it on a spiritual perspective, it's helping to close and rebalance your vata dosha because you're an open vessel. And this is when you're more open, you're more prone to spiritual attack, right? There's more energies that can come in and harm you. You get more sick more often. People who are post-birth should be at home, resting, eating good food with your baby. And on top of that, it helps the overall feeling of feeling whole with your body. So yes, the physical aspect is one part of it, but there is a very deep emotional aspect to it too, as well as it looks amazing. Every time I do a belly band, I'm like, this is awesome. This should be a shirt. How do I make this into a shirt?
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is so attractive. As against, those Velcro belts that you get all the time from the hospital.
Absolutely. And it's customized for your body. I think people forget that, right? Like it does take a little bit extra work to do it. It's like wearing a sari. First time you have no idea what you're doing. Your mother's coming to help you. Second time you still have no idea. Third time maybe. Fourth time you got it. And then you just practice on it. And the idea of self-care is like if you're not implementing self-care in your pregnancy state, it's going to be very hard in the postpartum state because you're not used to taking care of yourself. You're now going to be focusing only on this baby. And yeah, that's great. You should be focusing on this baby. But what about who's taking care of you? Who's doing that? So that becomes part of self-healing aspect where it's like, I do my belly bind, I do my massage, I do my facials, I do my brushing of my teeth, I attend to my body, I enjoy my body, and then I allow this body to be nourishing for my baby. So there's a lot of levels and layers to it. And the healing aspect is another beautiful aspect to it as well. And eventually you won't need the belly bind. And then you do the next thing, which is like, I'm going to start doing my postnatal yoga and I'm going to do my Pilates and my weight training and my walking. And it's a slow build up, but it does take work. It does take dedication. And I would just say if anyone's planning to get pregnant or is pregnant, it's good to do something every day, whether that's 15 minutes of walking, 15 minutes of yoga. It is very important because your body becomes sedentary after birth. You become very sedentary. And not to credit my Indian genetics, I've seen our women. I've seen them. They love eating. They love eating pakora. They love eating mithai. They love eating paranthas. And that's great, but it's not doing anything for you anymore, right? And as we become more conscious and aware, we need to take back and say, what are we putting into our body that's toxic? But I see what's going on, and it's an epidemic of eating. And this has to be very much part of the journey is, the pillars of postpartum Ayurvedic care is food, herbs, rest, and massage, self-care. So the food is medicine. Herbs, you take certain types of postpartum herbs that really helps with the body and the organs work more functionally. Rest, sleeping, your baby should be with you, should be resting, your husband should be helping you, your mother-in-law, your cousins, whomever is at home, and massage. I mean, in India, it's so much versatile. You can have someone come into the house and massage your body. Here, it is a pretty penny to have that luxury, I'll tell you that much. So it is about even doing self-care massage and lymphatic drainage on yourself and the belly binding aspect where it is going to make you be more versatile if you decide to have 1, 2, 3, 5, however many kids you want, because most of us at 1, our bodies have really changed. 2 and 3, you got to be on your A game. You don't want to be 50 years old and having organs prolapse inside. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a sad reality. And, I see it in the people who have, who are more in the upper middle class and they're living their lives and they're having expensive foods and all this stuff. They're the ones who are going to suffer, not the people who are in the villages who have been living the same life for the last 100 years and they have the same roti and rice and the same things they're doing. It's really the people in the cities that are actually having the biggest issues because they've become so, everything's about fast. And here, we're trying to get back to that state. We're trying to be like, let's go more like yogi in India, let's go to Rishikesh and do all these things where it's like an opposite cycle. So it's very interesting to see how the mindset, although it's 2 different parts of the world, the mentality is still the same. And this is just because of the media has opened this whole world up.
Yeah. And, whenever I talk about this emotional aspect, I'm mocked about, like, everybody's like, what is it? What are you always talking about? And to find somebody who's also, and this will be an inspiration that you can be emotional and you can still be
Absolutely.
strong.
I mean, I don't know who said you can't be emotional. Like, this is the only way we navigate through this life is to feel. And if we've stopped feeling, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. You can only feel. And the thing is, you're having babies. Babies only know how to feel. And we're learning about the sensitivity of their world as they're learning about the harshness. And they're realizing, these adults are a little weird. They have a lot of issues. They have a lot of baggage on them. But we've come straight from source. And this is what I say is that our intuition has been so neglected. We've been taught not to have emotions or feel. And it goes back to even my story of 8 years in medical school, probably suffering through 7.5 of them and feeling horrible every day, hating myself every day, but too scared to do anything about it because I'm living up to someone's expectation of my expectation of myself, but not owning my own truth. And this is the only way to navigate through your life now is like, you have to feel if feelings don't feel good, that is your intuition telling you, hey, you got to look at something, you got to feel this out more, so and especially if you're a woman, like, you're built with these female emotions. Like, if someone's telling you not to feel, they got to check themselves, because we are made to feel. We create life. We are only feeling.
I'm always told, why do you start crying listening to somebody, or like the story I told you about my friend who actually had a blissful birth, and when she wrote down that word, I was crying, and it was like, why are you crying? Why do you have to be in this profession? You cannot make somebody feel already overwhelmed with it, because they're going to be so that's the reason that they give, and I buy into that. But I am a crybaby.
Me too. And you know what it is? It's not that you're crying because you're emotional about them. It's that it's almost like you're crying that, wow, one more person is owning her journey, is coming into her power. And for me, I mostly cry for humanity, right? Like, I have my moments where I just break down and I'm like, oh my God, like, just one more, just release for humanity. Because if you're feeling it, the conscious collective is feeling it too, but you're just processing it in a different way because you've tapped into something that maybe most people just ignore on a daily basis. And that's just the way they've been taught and programmed to not feel, and, I don't know, Indians are very emotional. Everything, it's just so emotional, right? So it only makes sense that going through the most beautiful, the most physically demanding experience of your whole life is going to bring out emotions. And especially when it comes to the pain aspect, like the surges, it's going to take everything out of you, and you're supposed to feel it. Yeah. Otherwise you can't numb it. Those are what the drugs are for, right? So
Nidhi, you are in this profession, and the way you described and the way we are going, it's an extremely emotionally draining experience, not even for the mother, even somebody who's there and supporting you in your journey. They become a part of the journey. How do you actually emotionally detach from one story to another?
That's a great question. To be honest, I vent a lot to my partner. He's great. He's been through it too. So he is able to help me compartmentalize a lot of thoughts. I get, the emotional side of the female, the masculine side has their own role, which is to kind of bring light and truth to a lot of things and not get too caught up in the story of it. That's one aspect of what I do. Other things would be massage. I try and work out every single day, even if it's 30 minutes, something to release. I have shamanic plant medicines that I tap into that help me really go through a psycho-spiritual experience to really cry. And for me, it's mostly the crying that I purge out crying. Like, I just cry and cry and cry. I also try not to take it too seriously too. Otherwise, this industry will literally burn you out in 3 years. I have to really remember that it's not me. It's this person's journey. It's them. And I can only hold space for their journey. Don't get me wrong. Every single time there's a birth, I feel like I've given birth. I'm like, ooh, I feel amazing. But there are times where there's some pretty traumatic births, and you're just thinking about it, and you're thinking about the mother, what she's going through, because you just spend all these hours with her, and like, what are you going through? What is your state of mind right now? So for me, I try and talk to my clients a lot. I have a beautiful doula community that I speak to, especially some very close friends of mine who I talk to, and we share, and they are very encouraging, because, you don't get into this work because you're like, oh, this is going to be like a fun profession. Like, it definitely is, but it's also a lot of emotional work that you have to go through. And I go through I have my therapist. I have a lot of people who I have to work with, because I can't let this stay in my body and fester. I refuse to get sick from this stuff. And I see people who this profession takes a physical toll on them, right? And I really want to have a very long life doing this, because it's such a purpose for me to help these souls come through. And to be honest, like, when I go downtime, I go downtime. I like remove myself off. I go up to nature. I'm just with people who I really, really resonate with. And I have with some really great friends that we just talk and cry and laugh, and remember that this is just all life. We're just each living a story in it, and we're all here to help each other. So even if it feels like a birth is very hard, I was there to play a role in that. And that person was there to play a role for me. And I've learned to become the observer in it too. But I've become better at detaching from it year to year. So, It's definitely a skill that it's like something that you just practice every single time. You're like, okay, it's done. I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to think about this right now. I'm going to go do something else. So yeah.
Does that also help you help your clients detach to some aspects of their journey?
I think in the earlier parts, it's hard for them to detach because they're living through it at that moment. But I talk to my clients every single day, like especially the ones who just birthed recently. I make sure I talk to them. I call them. I voice note them almost all the time just to make sure that they know that they can let go, because sometimes they're holding up the fort on the phone and I go and see them and I just hug them and the waterwork starts. And then it's like I'm there to make sure that they are able to let go with me. So it's like we're all doing therapy with each other. It's crazy, right? Like I'm going to my therapist, they're doing therapy with me. It's like quite funny. So I think it's hard for them to detach right away because you know how a new mother is 6 weeks, you're just living in like, oh my God, I haven't slept, and the baby and the gas and all this stuff. So eventually, slowly, they start to make peace with their birth. For some people, the ones that are stories are more potent, that can take years to build through, right? Like I had a client who had a very traumatic birth experience a few years ago, and now she's been processing it and really wrote about it, and the writing aspect really helped her to release a lot of it. And because of that experience, her second time birth, she has no fear about because she's done so much work in the middle of it. But like I said, you never forget your birth experience, right? For me, it's different because I still have all these clients that I'm constantly shuffling through. For them, that's their experience and that's what they live with every day. So, yeah.
Brings me to the point that, and especially to our listeners and everybody who's listening, and even if living in India in communities, sometimes we are there for all the physical help, but this emotional presence and helping the woman just go through what she wants to, in terms of emotional presence, and not really asking questions, trying to fix anything. Sometimes nobody wants anything to be fixed. And so if you're living with a woman who's just delivered, and she's expressing symptoms of crying, symptoms of being fussy, not feeling happy, just like that. Just be there, listen to the story and figure out if there are certain signs that may be about extreme anxiety or depression, and that needs to be catered to through a therapist or through a doctor maybe. What do you think, Nidhi? I think this is something that even in communities is lacking these days because we're so distracted and we're so immersed in ourselves. Sometimes we don't even realize when you're talking to somebody, we are all immersed in ourselves. We are trying to help somebody, but we are not trying to help somebody. We're just trying to figure out if we've not done anything wrong.
For sure. And like, that's like the problem. The society is like this, right? And I think it comes also from the different communities that you're living in. Some communities are way more open to looking for help and asking for help. When it comes to mental health, with Indian communities too, it's very difficult. I know already with a lot of Chinese communities, Asian communities, Korean, Japanese, it's like you can't even speak about anything. You just hold it together. You stay silent. You just keep it together. But I think as, God bless social media, God bless Instagram. I'll have to say that for the things that you can find through there where you actually have this outlet that you can tap into. That being said, there are some people who still refuse to get help because of the shame that it brings for them. I don't know why this shame exists, to be honest with you. I think it's just we're so used to putting up an image of ourselves out for people, and we don't want people to know that we're not perfect, even though we are perfect. It's like this image that we're always creating for ourselves. I'm all about therapy. Like, if I could have seen a therapist when I was 12 years old, that would have probably been my best. If I could go back, I'd be like, you should go through therapy, and you start at 12 and all your problems will be done in 2 years. Coming when you're 32, doing therapy, 31, 32, doing therapy, a lot of stuff you want to unpack. And even later on, it's like the baggage is just slowly collecting, right? I'm all about therapy. There are times where medication has to be used, right? When things get very, very escalated, but it is about recognizing that there is a problem. And then if we're using medication to medicate, there's a root cause of why that is. So talking is really the best. Talking to someone sometimes you don't even know, you can release more than someone that you do know because they have a pre-existing judgment about you, especially like talking to mothers or cousins and stuff. They already have their world. They already have their judgment on you. And talking to someone who's neutral, who doesn't know anything about you and just here to hold space for you is really how we can we can work through our collective anxiety, is what I'll say. I think now it's very unique times that we're living in. Sometimes it almost feels like a movie that just won't shut off. But we are the movie, it looks like. And people really are struggling big time. And being able to be open about this struggle, to be talking about, hey, these are the things that affected me, not only at the age of 28, but really since childhood. These are the things that have affected me that have now created me now. And now I'm having so much anxiety, I can't even deal with what's going on. So this kind of talk needs to be had with the children, with people that we love, to really be that first person to say, hey, you know what? I really struggled with pregnancy. I really struggled being a mother. And it wasn't that I didn't love my baby. I just felt like I didn't know who I was because all these parts of myself were revealed and I didn't have time to process them in a very timely manner. And, you know, yoga, breathing, meditation is like the basis of anything, you know, the basis of birth is just breathing. You don't have to have anyone there, just breathe. This is all you have to do. And, you know, India is so amazing because literally I think of like, not because I'm Indian and I'm prejudiced to this, like I only started getting into yoga when I was 26. So, you know, for me, my culture was really going to the mandir and doing deity worshiping. This is what I grew up with, not understanding what are we doing? But when I look back and I see what are the rituals that are being performed in these very ancient countries, it's Ayurveda, it's yoga, it's breath, it's even doing rituals like doing a puja in the morning and like clearing the energy of the house and setting the new intention for the day, washing of the body, of the self, the nechi pachi, the ears, all of it. These are the simple rituals that we can do for ourselves to create a routine that can make us feel like, okay, we have a routine, we know what's going on. And then we can start working with ourselves and enriching our children's lives with this too, because it's not only about the women who are delivering, it's actually the kids. We do this work so the kids can come in and feel like they're not being traumatized by what their parents just went through, right? And all of us have some sort of childhood trauma that it can be something so small. It doesn't have to be you were physically abused. It can be, you know, mom didn't let me eat that and it created a distorted personality of my being in that way. So there are so many aspects to therapy and healing, and it really comes being selfish for yourself and being proud that, hey, you know what, I recognize I need some help and I'm going to go get some. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with searching for help. There's nothing wrong with being emotional and being open about how you feel about things, because if you're feeling it, there's probably 20 other people feeling the exact same way, but they're just too scared to say anything because no one likes being alienated. For me, I've been alienated my whole life. So for me, like my mother just can't get me to stop talking and being publicly embarrassing for her. So it comes very naturally and fitting to the profession that I'm in because I've stopped caring what sometimes people say, especially in a way that coerces my clients and makes them feel less. I've just been like, no, you're not going to force them to do that. No, you're not going to force her to wear a mask in labor. No, you're not going to do that. So in that way, I've had to do a lot of self-help to help others. And that's the only way you can help other people. Like there's no point that you can help somebody else when you're still struggling with these things and it's struggling to the point where it's debilitating you in your daily life, right? So this work brings up so many aspects of womanhood, right? Of femalehood, of childhood, bringing sexuality, repression, shame, guilt, so many feelings. And being Indian brings up all those emotions. And it's even more funny how many contradictions we have in our own state, but yet we have all the genetic codes to connect back to that. And then that connects back to source. So it's quite a unique path. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. I think I went a little overboard with the question.
No, I think it brings all the other aspects that are very, very important to be talking about. And you're already answering the next question, and I would like you to elaborate. How has being a doula transformed you as a person?
I don't know. That's a heavy loaded question. I would say it made me more nurturing and compassionate to what we're all going through collectively. I'm really starting to see my mother in a new light. And it's been hard because we have a pre-existing, like I said, childhood stuff that we've dealt with our parents. And just showing more love and compassion to her for her journey and what the female is going through and what my lineage has been through. You know, these women who come in and they're literally like baby makers. Like there's no soul, there's no like love involved. the way love should be involved, the way we have love now, the option to have love. So it's transformed me into realizing how authentic I can be, owning in my truth, speaking my truth, not being afraid to be who I am, learning how to cut people away when it doesn't seem right, and learning to really be like this beam of light for these souls coming in and these people who really do need, who trust you. Like, I have people who trust me more than they trust their doctors. They're like, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, it's your doctor. Like, I don't know. So they just trust you because they feel that you know what you're doing in your life. You can help guide me into having a similar vibration. So this work comes with a lot of self-confidence, a lot of therapy, like I said, has been involved in this. And it's really to become a better human being. I think that's the goal of anybody going into this work is, I want to be a better human being because I want to be a better person for the world. And for these women who are coming in and who feel like they're not given a safe space to express themselves and to feel safe when they birth, I think is a really big experience. And although it's something very natural that happens to all of us, somehow we all are being shunned away from it. And honestly, I didn't even know much about birth until I became a doula. Like, I was in med school for how many years, but we're not taught birth in that way. We're taught it on a very male perspective. This is the vagina. This is how it opens up. These are the hormones that get released. The woman starts pushing and the baby slowly, it's like so detached. And so it forced me to become more attached to myself. It forced me to recognize that this is actually a divine being, a God having a godly experience, and another God is there to witness it. So for me, it's transformed my life in more ways than you can ever imagine. And where it's going now is it's just moving further and further into really helping women really find their passion about their bodies and how to be the most authentic that they can be. So yeah, I hope that answered a heavily loaded question.
Yes, I know, but it's important to bring these points out because we need to, like you said, we need to have a sense of community, and we all feel that, but we think this is not normal, and which is why I'm really enjoying talking to you, and I really wanted, to delve deeper into that spiritual realm and
Absolutely.
all of that. Yeah, and Nidhi, what was that most challenging aspect of the most challenging time for you being a doula? If there's a story or anything like that, yeah.
I think it's definitely been this time. It's been since COVID started. It was already hard before. We could still go in the hospital, we can still help our people, but now it's just a joke. It's just like whatever this is has become completely so far-fetched. People have forgotten about every other disease in the whole world, obesity, heart attacks, diabetes, everything else is like, there's nothing else that exists apart from COVID. And because of that, a woman doesn't have a choice to feel free in what she decides to put in her body, the people that she's allowed to have in the room, and how she can birth. In Ontario, already what has been mandated by 2 hospitals that's coming is an unvaccinated mother cannot have her unvaccinated spouse in the room. She must birth alone, and she cannot have her doula in there. And this is just disgusting. It's disgusting beyond words that you now are coercing women into injecting something that is not medically tested into a body that has another life inside. And we're okay with it because we just have to be, because life is going to continue back to normal if we do these things. It's not getting any better. Women are being forced to wear masks. I always rip that mask off. The minute they come in and it's like, oh, don't even see Nidhi because she's going to rip that mask right off of you. I make sure I make myself known. For almost 1 year, we weren't allowed in the hospitals. The amount of birth trauma I dealt with my clients, nothing's going to help them with that way. They can go through the therapy, but they birthed the child not knowing that this was coming. We literally took female bodies and we just ravaged them, literally ravaged them. The fear, the sense of not being able to trust your healthcare provider, the nursing staff, the midwives, all became very medicalized. And our jobs became even more important because we were there now to pick up the pieces of helping them virtually or helping women. I mean, so many home births came up because people were like, I'm not going to the hospital. Home births went on the rise. It was like the beginning of another era of birth, I have to admit. Although it was a very traumatic time, it's also a very unique time because a lot of things had shifted. And for me, my work it started to reveal, I actually want to do this. I don't want to be in the system anymore. It's been very hard to navigate the system while choosing medical freedom for yourself, choosing not to do things by being pushed into them. And I think I speak for a lot of people who say that, but I feel like they have no choice. I have a choice. I don't have to do anything I don't want to. But a lot of people don't have a choice. A lot of women don't think they have a choice. A lot of things that we're taught in these medical schools that are like just repeated, where no one's doing fact checking. No one's checking for themselves. No one is getting educated about how the body works. And this is the problem that's going on right now. I literally just cry out to humanity and say, okay, this is how it's supposed to happen for people to wake up. But man, it's brutal going through it. It really is. Like, I think I have a group chat with maybe 15 doulas. And there's a lot of doulas, but this is just the ones that I kind of work very closely with. And someone has a breakdown every day because they're like, this is what I experienced today. And I said, holy crap, like, this is what I experienced last week. But we're all holding it together because we know that sometimes we're the only people that can be strong enough to be in these positions, right? And that we were really chosen for this work. This isn't just something you think about like, oh, I'm going to be a doula. It's something that literally finds you. It finds you because you hear something or you experience something. So COVID has been a very, very hard time. It's still ongoing. So it's really about reminding all these clients and these women that this is a theater. It's going to go on. It's like a movie that just is every day there's something going on. If it's not COVID, it's something else next year. It's something else next year. Life is going to continue, but where are you centered in yourself? It's very sad to see that we have just forfeited our rights as women, as individuals, as mothers, as people, for the system. And you can choose whatever you want, medical freedom. You want to put anything in your body, you have absolutely pro-choice. You do whatever you want, but why force other people? Why make other people feel like they're not allowed to do things? So, you know, our work, especially for a doula, our work is so needed now. It's so needed because there's a lot of people who are too scared to work. And I had people coming to me like, can you be my doula? Yeah, sure. No, I'm not scared. I'm like, if I'm scared, I'm not good for anybody. I'm scared of this, please. I'm untouchable. And I have to tell myself that because I've been through too much in my own life. I take care of myself too much. I'm untouchable. And I literally have to tell myself that because if I don't, I can't help anyone. I'm completely useless. So I also have to remind my other doulas and I have to tell them like, listen guys, like we're in this work because we're supposed to. You're untouchable. Remember that. You have your spirit. Remember, you have to tap into that energy, that really powerful energy there. It's like your ego literally takes over and says, you're the shit. And you know you are. And now you go and help. And this is how I have to navigate my life. So yeah, COVID has been a really traumatic time for everyone. And hopefully it'll be over sooner than later, is what I'll say.
Or we be more, we rely more on our bodies and the power of its healing.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, Nidhi, for bringing that energy into the conversation, for letting us know how your energy actually provides a shield to your being, and it can actually protect you when you actually think from here, from your mind. Before we let you go, Nidhi, what would be that one thing you'd like to tell our, especially women and men? Because sometimes, especially in the community that I live in, and amazing changes are happening already. But through this medium, what would you like to say to both men and women partnering in to give birth? How is it that they should look at this experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess some final thoughts would be, it is really about conscious living, right? How are we consciously living? What are we choosing to hear? What are we choosing to follow suit with? What are we indoctrinated with? Literally, what are we indoctrinated with believing? And for men and women to exist peacefully and balanced, they both have to be able to protect and love each other. You know, the woman's divine essence is very different than a male's essence, but yet together they are whole. They are whole together. It's like the yin and the yang. The male is very divine masculine, the protector, the provider. And the woman is like the nurturer, and she's bringing in life. So together, both of them can come together and bring harmony and peace to this new child who's coming in. It is about conscious sex. It's about conscious living, and it's about conscious parenting. And for us to be able to move forward in a much more evolved species, we have to stop doing what our parents did if that didn't serve us. The ancestral trauma is so deep that we need to start focusing on what are the things that make me happy and how can I change the outcomes that I went to for this new child? Because A lot of times we're just doing the same thing our parents did because that's what we were taught. And for men and women to exist peacefully together, we have to be open and honest with them. There's no point lying and pretending that these things don't exist. And, oh, I don't want to tell my husband this because he might not accept it. No, he will accept it. I don't want to tell my wife because she won't understand. No, she'll understand, because no one's going to fall apart. No one's going to die from talking. But we have to be able to communicate more with each other with what our needs are and where we're able to meet each other. And you know what? If husbands, husbands are so, I've met so many amazing fathers and husbands who are so there for their wives every step of the way. I've also met the other ones who are not very helpful. And if that's the case, then get help. Get someone to come and fill in those spaces for you. There's no point dragging each other down the rabbit hole of making each other feel guilty if someone is not capable of something. And that's okay. We're all uniquely different. So it is about having discussions. A lot of times I tell people, don't look at the money of investing into a doula. You're looking at money as energy. If you don't know how to put your energy into something, that energy is not going to come back. So we're trying to do that whole, oh, it's too expensive, it's too this. You probably spend more money buying ridiculous clothes than you would ever investing in something that will literally transform your life and something you're going to remember for the rest of your life, more than buying the lehenga or the sari or gifting someone hundreds of thousands of rupees to a wedding that is so insignificant in 10 years that you won't even remember, right? And I say this for our own community because we got so invested into all the aspects of the party, we forget about who is the couple together, who was literally bridging that relationship. And everything is based on love. Everything that's happening in this world is based on the relationship of love. Everything, every creative thought, everything that's the earth proliferating outside the man and woman, it is love. That is the basis. And it is about finding what that love is, because for so long, I think we've been denied that. We've been traumatized to not experience what real love is, the orgasmic feeling, the emotional feeling, the physical feeling, the heart feeling. It really is about connecting back to love and love with each other and building a very solid foundation with your relationship, because kids only make it harder. They don't make it easier. People are like, oh, I have a kid, it's going to solve everything. No. It's going to show you what more problems you have if you're not dealing with them. So that would be my final thoughts for men and women. Build on your foundation, build on your love, talk to each other, communicate. No one's going to die from talking. Like, if something makes you unhappy, time to speak it up. Don't feel bad about it. What's the worst? He's going to not enjoy or what you're going to say. Great. Then help each other to experience and understand it, because we're all coming from our own worlds and we've all experienced some sort of trauma that we all need more love and more compassion for each other. This is the only way we're going to vibrate out of this frequency. It's not through more fear. It's really through more love and more compassion and more understanding.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. Thank you so much for coming on board and bringing this energy on board.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to thank all your followers for listening. And I hope, we all get to connect again, because this is something that affects us very deeply on every level. Seeing our mother, seeing our sister, seeing ourselves go through this experience. We just want to make it easier for the next person and for them not to go through what we have to go through all the time. So, yeah.
Very crucial and very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
That was Nidhi, who opened up about her life and personal stories. We will be bringing more such stories centered around birth and birth community in the upcoming episodes. Season 3 has various themes, one of which has been Doula Stories, other postpartum physical healing, and we also have a parenting theme. So next up on Season 3 is a parenting episode with Nidhi Yadav on food and nutrition for children. On the bite-sized series, the pregnancy series that releases next, we have a detailed description of what you should be doing in each stage of pregnancy. And that's how we are going to wrap up the year on the pregnancy series. And don't forget to subscribe. You, if you're listening to me for the first time, welcome. All I have is you who listen to me, who learn, who enjoy. So share this with a friend right now, or write to me. Tell me how you like this one. What else would you like to listen to on the podcast? And remember, you got the power. Stay tuned.